before Christmas, and all through 2 meters, not a signal was keen up any repeaters. The antennas reached up from the tower quite high to catch the weak signals that bounced from the sky. The children, technicians, took their HTs to bed and dreamed of the day that they'd be extras instead. Mom put on her headphones, I plugged in the key, and we tuned 40 meters for that rare ZK3. When the meter was pegged by a signal with power, it smoked the small diode, and I swear shook the tower. Mom yanked off her phones, and with all she could muster, logged a spot on the signal on the DX packet cluster, while I ran to the window and peered up at the sky to see what could generate RF that high. It was way in the distance, but the moon made it gleam. A flying sleigh with an 8-element beam, and a little old driver who looked slightly mean, so I thought for a moment that it might be Wayne Green. But no, it was Santa, the Santa of hams, on a mission this Christmas to clean up the bands. He circled the tower, then stopped in his trek, and he slid down the coax right into the shack. While Mom and I hid behind stacks of CQ, this Santa of hamming just knew what to do. He cleared off the shack desk of paper and parts and filled out all of my late QSLs for a start. He ran copper braid, took a steel rod and pounded it into the earth till the station was grounded. He tightened loose fittings, resoldered connections, cranked down modulation, installed lightning protection. He neutralized tubes in my linear amp. Never worked right before, now it works like a champ. A new low-pass filter cleaned up the TV. He corrected the settings in my TNC. He repaired the computer that wouldn't compute, and he backed up the hard drive and got it to boot. Then he reached really deep in the bag that he brought and pulled out a big box. A new rig, I thought. A new Kenwood, an Icon, a Yaesu for me, an Elcraft, Tentec, or Flex. Could it be? If he thought I'd been bad, it might be QRP. Yes, the ultimate station. How could I deserve this? Could it be all those weekends I worked public service? He hooked it all up, and in record time, quickly worked 100 countries, all down on 160. I should have been happy. It was my call he sent. But the cards and the postage will cost a month's rent. He made final adjustments and left the card by the key. To Tom from Santa Claus, 73. Then he grabbed his HT, looked me straight in the eye, punched a code on the pad, and was gone. No goodbye. I ran back to the station, and the pile up was big. But a card from St. Nick would be worth my new rig. Oh, too late for his final. Came over the air. It was copied all over. It was heard everywhere. The ham Santa exclaimed, "What an old ham expects. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, good DX." And that was written by Gary, Kilo November 4 Alpha Quebec, and used with his permission. Well, good evening and welcome to the Bella Vista Club's November virtual meeting. My name is Tom, W5XNA, and I am the current president of BVRC. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight. First of all, I hope that you and your family are continuing to do well. And there is still no timeline for resuming on-site club meetings. We will only do so when it's safe and in conformance with the state's guidelines. And as I've said before, although not an ideal replacement, I trust that you have enjoyed the virtual meeting presentations. And the good news is we still have been able to have a few months of on-site VE sessions with many new techs and upgrades. The restrictions placed upon everyone due to COVID-19 and the pandemic impacted BVRC as well. A majority of the BVRC meetings were virtual this year. We had no organized tech class or field day, and therefore I have made a proposal to the leadership team that anyone that was a paid member in 2020 be considered a paid member for 2021. If anybody already paid their 2021 dues, and apparently there are a few, they will be considered paid up through the year 2022. I have not heard back from all of the board, but when I do, I will have the information posted on our website. Well, tonight's BVRC virtual meeting consists of 2 shack visits. We have a visit to the shack of Jerry Bozeman, Kilo Bravo 5, Uniform Whiskey Kilo. Jerry is a retired Springdale educator. And like a few of our members, Jerry was away from the hobby for several years, but like many who have left the hobby, they can't stay away from our great hobby for very long. So Jerry is back, and he's getting his shack up to snuff. And it was a pleasure meeting Jerry and being able to have him show us what he's been doing since he returned from hiatus. And we will also visit the shack of yours truly, Whiskey 5 X-Ray November Alpha. This was not planned. I thought I had 2 other members on deck, but found out that one was leaving for a vacation and one was returning from a vacation, and I'm not on vacation, so I went with plan B, and that is me. Well, now it's time for the presentations. Please use the chat box. Your comments are welcome and encouraged. And again, thanks for joining us tonight for our December virtual meeting.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jerry Bozeman. My call sign is Kilo Bravo 5, Uniform Whiskey Kilo, KB5 UWK. My wife Jan and I live in Springdale, about a mile east of I-49 and about a quarter of a mile south of Sunset. So we're kind of over here in the southwest corner of the state. Today I want to give you just a little bit of an idea as to the setup that I have, that I work with, and the reason some things are maybe set up like they are. The setup is probably going to change again. It's already been changed 2 or 3 times, but eventually we'll get to where I want it to be, and we can kind of calm down and go with it from there. From all of the eye charts in my ophthalmologist office down in Fayetteville, they show that I'm supposedly legally blind. Now, there are several dimensions of that. Legally blind doesn't mean that you can't see anything. It simply means that there are many activities during the day, many activities that you need to do, such as read, sign documents, read documents, drive, things that you are prevented from doing on a normal basis. The problem that I have with my left eye is that it's at about 30% functionality right now. The right eye is a good eye, but the center portion of it looks like I'm looking through a fog. And as you look through a fog, the fog things are away from you, they tend to fade away, and that's what happens. In addition, it hinders me from looking real close at things and finding things I might need to be looking for. So that's the problem that I deal with. And it's life. You just go on and you make adjustments and go from there. I got my license in 2002. I always had an interest in radio, but finally in 2001 started studying. In 2002, I got my license and started purchasing some things that I could use. The first radio I had was Kenwood TS520S. Wonderful radio. Got off eBay. It was everything the guy said it was. Great shape. Everyone I talked to said it had great audio on it. Made contacts all over the world with it, and really enjoyed the radio. There came a time where I got out of ham radio for a while, We won't go into the reasons, but I did for several years. I learned that Votech in Springdale was learning to set up either an amateur radio club or a department, and made contact to give that radio to them to use as necessary, and hopefully they used it. So I got back into ham radio sometime early spring when a friend of mine, Vincent Carter, called, K5VCA, and wanted to talk a little bit about ham radio, and showed me that my license had not expired in 2012 like I thought it had, that I'd already renewed it and my license was still good. And I thought, well, you know, with what's going on with the eyes, this might be a good hobby to get back into, and it has turned out to be that way. So what I want to do today is to show you the setup that I have based on what I'm trying to accomplish. We'll go through this equipment first, and then we'll go outside and look at the antenna farm, and well, it's the farm in working, let's put it that way, and we'll go from there. All right, over here, I've got this set up desk high so that hopefully everything will be at eye level for me. This is my Hammerman HQ 170. I wish it worked. It worked when I first got it. It was a wonderful receiver, old receiver, as you can tell. It's part of my boat anchor. And a sweet lady gave that to me when I first got interested in radio. She also gave me a Johnson Viking AM transmitter that I never could get to work. So a fellow ham found out that I had that, and I sold that to him, but I want to keep this, and it's just mainly for looks, but I still like having it around. It'll probably take a mortgage on my house to get the thing fixed, but it might be worth it. The next thing is, see this globe here, there are charts. You now know that there are charts that we can look at that will give you the heading for any particular country you want to point your beam to. And I can't read those charts. So what I've done is I put the globe here, and I found out where we are on the globe with a magnifying glass. And I go to the country that I want to try to reach and take a heading from there. And so far, it's worked out pretty good. It's worked out very well. And that's the closest that I can get to reading a chart on headings to make DX. So I'm going to continue to use that as long as necessary. Everything else here is set up on eye level. And I have to use a magnifying glass, the small white one here, to use to read the frequencies, to check where I am, to make any changes and things like that. But that's the reason it's set up that way. This is my little Radio Shack power supply. For a while, a lot of people laughed at Radio Shack stuff, but this had been a trooper. I've had this for years, and it's fed every radio that I put it on, and it's done an outstanding job. Jazer FT840, I got this before I let my 520 go, and this also turned out to be a great radio. The big benefit to it was the LCD screen, or LCD readout that I could read, as opposed to the little tiny lines on the dial of the 520 sugar. That would have been a great big problem. But it turned out to be a good radio, got it on eBay too, and it turned out to be everything I wanted it to be. These radios all went through about 5 or 6 years of extreme temperatures, from 100 degrees and over to single digits. And this one survived, everything survived. I was very, very surprised. But it's been a good radio. When I first pulled it out, there were some receive problems on it, and the oscillator was having some problems, and it wouldn't hold frequency. But that was after I'd been used it for quite a while. So I took it to Dennis Robinson, KE4AFE, some of you may know him. Great tech. He put a new oscillator in it, and it's been centering up great ever since. So that's the primary. This is the newest radio I've purchased. This is the Yaesu 450 DS digital. Again, Vincent Carter had one, and I went over and listened to it, watched it. He told me all about it, the things it would do, and I thought that might be a radio that would fit my particular situation. There's a lot more to it than this one, but the button setup and everything with this Yaesu radio is very similar to this. Terminology is the same, and it wasn't hard to transfer over. Now, the only drawback to this radio is this. it's digital. If I'm sitting up here and working on something and I bump one of these buttons, I'm in trouble because I can't see which one I touched and I have no idea what its function was. So I may go through there and try to straighten everything out, and before you know it, I've got this radio locked up. Well, that's happened twice, and that's the only complaint I've got against it, and it's my fault because if I bump it, it's a problem. But there's a wonderful thing called factory reset that we learn how to do, and once I get to that, it's just all right. It's great. Any lockup, anything I've done, I just go to factory reset, set it back to the beginning, and start all over. That has been a lifesaver. That's the only thing that bothers me about it, is the fact that if I bump it, it takes me a while. I can't see what I bumped. I don't know what I'm doing, and I can get this thing locked up in a hurry. So I've learned to work very slowly and not try to bump too much. This section right here is my 2 meter for 40 section. This one is the ICOM 2700A. It's a mobile radio that I'm running bass right now. Dual band. I use that for the nets around and the wide area net, wide area repeaters that are set up with the 440. It's a great radio. Got a great receive on it, but that's what that's used for. This is a old Kenwood TR9000. Now this is a pretty old radio. It's analog all the way. Still uses LEDs for the signal, for the display. But it's all mode. CW, single side band, FM, the whole works. It's all mode. It's not hooked up. That is the next goal, is to get an amplifier and an antenna set up. But this particular radio, I like to do some single sideband work on 2 meter. But it's worked. It's in great shape. It survived all the cold and hot temperatures too. So I'm really pleased that it did. And of course, this is the rotor control that went totally haywire while I was gone. You guys had a pretty bad windstorm up here with 50 mile an hour sustained winds and 60, 65 mile an hour gust or whatever. I came home and turned this thing on, and that needle was just going back and forth. Just back and forth. I had no idea what was happening. And I turned the rotor and turned the antenna all the way around, and it would catch, come back, and it would start bouncing back and forth again. So I had to climb the tower, work up there, and do some work. Finally found out what the problem was, and came back down, turned it on, and it's been working ever since. And it feeds the tower that goes up and takes care of the tri-band that I've got sitting on top of that. Plans in the future for this? A few maybe. You can tell I don't have an amplifier here. I would like to have one, but I'm not sure I'm going to get one. A lot of times I'll make a contact with someone, and of course they give us the signal, and they'll say you're 5'9" or 10 over 9 or 5 over 9 or whatever, and give me a good signal report, and then I'll give them a 5'8", 5'9", whatever it is, and we'll talk, and they'll share what they've got, and they tell me what radio it is, what amplifier they've got, what output they've got, and what antenna they've got. And they're putting like 700, 800, 900 watts into a antenna that's up on a 100-foot tower, which is fine. It's great, And they're hitting me with a nice 5'9" signal. And then they'll ask what I have. And I'll say, well, I've got 90 watts going into a tri-beam that's up about 30 feet. And it's pointed your direction, and that's just about it. Some sort of surprised, and they say, well, that 100 watts or 90 watts is doing a great job for you. It used to bother me that I didn't have an amplifier like everybody else did, but I kind of get a kick out of it when these guys tell me they're putting 800, 900,000 watts out, and I'm getting back to them with 90 or 100. So I may get an amp and I may not. It's all how the signal's going to go. It's just the way things are going to be. So that's one thing. The other is I'm looking to possibly put this in as a mobile and pick up another one out here to take its place, but we'll have to see how that goes, and that's going to be in the future. It's this is a Heil microphone that I got just a while back. GME 10, I believe. Nobody's given me a bad audio report on it, so I guess it's working okay. And I like it simply because of the setup, not having to hold a mic here. I can just sit and talk across it. In order to get things on QRZ, when I make a contact, I write all the information down on a 3x5 card and just keep it here. And then at the end of the day, when I'm through, I'll take those 3x5 cards in, and my wife will load them on QRZ for me that way. I can't read the computer, or I can use Hunt and Punch. Either way, it would still be super slow. But I figured doing it on a 3x5 card, giving those to her and she put them in for me would be probably about the best way to do it. So that's the setup here. It's pretty basic. I like it. And like I say, I'm working on probably readjusting a little bit more just to simply help out with the eyes. But there won't be any major things to it unless I add an amplifier, another radio or whatever, and we'll go from there. Well, let's step outside and I will show you what antennas are there and how they're set up and how we're working from there. Now, as you can see, I've taken a shack, my storage shack, and transferred all of my equipment out here to the front part of it, and the back of it I use for storage. So it's literally a ham shack, and it's worked out well so far. But as things grow, that might change. But that's the only place I think I can get everything in without having to just tear into the house. So that's a storage shack, and it's a ham shack. The antenna here is a 30-foot tower. It's a Mosley TA33. That antenna right now is giving me a lot of trouble. When I got back and realized that the storm had come through, the Yaesu F2450 has a antenna warning light. And every time I go to the beam, it gives me an antenna warning light. And I've been troubleshooting back and forth between that 450 and the 840, switching cables here, switching cables there, checking cables up the top of the tower, checking cables at the bottom of the tower, everywhere trying to figure out what's going on with that thing. So I finally got up yesterday and I just cut the coax off of it, cleaned it all out, and I've got some LMR 400 supposedly coming today. Hopefully it does. If it doesn't, it'll be here Monday, which will be cold. And I'm going to install all new coax on that. If I still get the antenna warning, that means I may have problems with the antenna itself, which is going to be another situation that I may or may not be able to handle. Probably not, and we'll just have to go from there. But I've had great luck with that antenna. The fella Ham gave me that antenna when I first got into the business, or into the hobby, and I put that up, and I have talked all over the world with that thing, including South Pole, Antarctica, with the Amston station down there, everywhere. That is an outstanding antenna when it's working. But right now, it's giving me some problems. And having to troubleshoot all that has kept me busy. It's been frustrating at times, but it's kept me jumping and trying to figure out what's going on. And sooner or later, I'll find out what's going on. I hope it's not one of the traps, but sooner or later, I'll find out what's going on. So that's my main beam right now that I use for DX and local work, and it's down. So what I have reverted to is, if you can see, there's a wire coming across here. That is my 40 meter dipole, and it is set up from there all the way across the yard, about 20 feet high. Feed point is on that pole that's set up on the 4x4 over there behind the pool, and it has worked great. It has really worked great. I've made contacts to Barcelona, made contacts to South America with it, and I reach the East Coast and West Coast when the conditions are good, and I really enjoyed it. Right below that, you can probably see an inverted V that comes down from it. That's a 20 meter inverted V. that I'm glad I set up, because the 20 meter on my beam up here is out. And so I use that. It's a little bit more noisy, but I make good contacts with that 20 meter inverted V that's there. On around over here, you see on the tower there, I've got my 2 meter. That's the Ringo Ranger 2 meter that I use for repeater work and just local rag chewing and things like that on 2 meter. And then right behind it on the back of the shed, that is my 440 antenna. Mainly used for the repeaters and checking into the net on Wednesday nights, and conversing with folks that they use the repeaters a lot more than I do. The future work here, well, first thing is to get this beam figured out. That's what's going to be going on with it. The second thing is I'm going to add an 80 meter dipole that will run from the pole over there over to the corner of the yard back behind us, and run from that pole to the opposite corner of the yard on the other side. That should give me enough to have an 80 meter dipole set up, and to allow me to get down into that range, of which I have really never taught before. So that, and again, getting the tri-bander up there working, figuring out what's wrong with it, is what we've got set up for the future. And hopefully we will make things a little bit more compact. I have enjoyed it. I've made more contacts with bad eyesight than I ever did with good eyesight. So let me end and share this with some of you guys. Some of you younger hams out there, you'll discover that life's going to throw you some curveballs. You just deal with them and go on. We very seldom ever get through life without something going wrong. There are a lot of people that are worse off than I am that are in amateur radio. And it's a great hobby for everybody. And I have enjoyed it immensely. And to tell you that it has not been frustrating trying to set something up the way I wanted it set up with the limited vision that I have, it has been very, very frustrating. But that's a good lesson for me to slow down. Simply slow down and look at what you're doing. So life's going to throw some curveballs. It's life. It's life. Sometimes we deal with it and we go on and we find those things that are really going to be something special for us. Amateur radio can be that. It can be that. So I hope this has been enlightening for some of you. That's my little ham shack, and I enjoy it. So thank you very much. I will say 73 to each and every one of you, and I hope each and every one of you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Well, this is Tom, Whiskey 5 X-Ray November Alpha, and I'm at my QTH. It's a wet Sunday afternoon, and we're outside because I'm just going to point you to the Wyndham dipole that I have up. And it's probably pretty hard to see. There it is. Okay. And there it is over the house. I'll show you what it looks like in the rear of the house. But let's take a look at what's happening here in the garage. So here's our smart cars. And I've got a lot of things that don't belong to me. For example, this beam was donated by WB5L, And we have a place in mind for this, Glenn, but you know that right now with COVID, we're not able to install it. So I'm just taking good care of it. And let's go around. And my XYL is collecting boxes for Christmas to wrap presents in, so that's what these boxes are. And this is just a little workstation I've got set up in the garage. And that vertical antenna is also not mine. And you can see that it is, now, move it over. All right. Yep. It's a Diamond X50NA. And it was donated, and we're looking for a home for that. We know where we want it, it's just COVID is preventing us from doing that. The same person donated this dual band Yagi. And in the bucket, I've got extra coax, and I have an end-fed 8010 antenna made by My Antennas. It's a good antenna, really nice antenna. So I'm keeping that around for field day. And I've got some QSL cards up. These are not all of them, but I've never been much of a builder, but one of my goals is to get better at doing that and soldering. And I watched the master, Mark Watley, K5XH, he soldered in a grid protector for my amplifier, and it was a masterful job for sure. And I've got some spare batteries over in the corner that I keep charged up at all times. And that's about it. Let's go into the back and see the antennas that are out there. Well, I'm on the back deck, and above me here, it's really difficult to see with the sky this color, but if you follow the coax up, there is a 6-meter dipole. And there's the coax. And then over to my left is a dual band Yagi. Now that's pointed in the direction of Mercy Hospital. But also, I'm able to hit the Mount Kessler repeater, because that antenna is also pointing to a water tower. It's only about a quarter mile away. And I get a bounce off of that in the, not exactly the opposite direction, but sort of a 45-degree angle, and hit the repeater on Mount Kessler. And The wire that's coming down here is part of the antenna system of the Wyndham. And again, not an ideal day to see where exactly that is with all the tree branches. But it comes down and over to the window here where it feeds into my shack. And I've got my shack grounded, and got the third connection there is for the 6-meter dipole. Alright, that's all we got. And we will go inside to the shack and show you around a little bit. It's a modest shack for sure, but right now it's serving me fine. I am planning on putting up a tower, and the tower would be going in the dog yard in the middle. Or on the side of the house. Just on the other side of the house there. I'm on a hill, so I need to have my tower on this part of the property, because on the other side it's several feet lower, and I would not be getting the most out of my property and the height from the east side of my property. Let's go inside the shack. Well, welcome to my shack. Come on in. Well, we're going to just do a panorama of the room. Starting in the corner, those are two Edfong dual band J-pole antennas. They work really nice, and they're easy to put up and take down, and they're great for doing special events. And in the corner at the table, you can see that there are rock specimens, and those are from my childhood, and I've carried them around from place to place, and it reminds me of my childhood, but also my fascination with that was one of my first hobbies, was collecting rocks and minerals. And that house there is a drawing of our house that was in Chicago, where my kids were born. And that shelf just has a bunch of knickknacks that relate to things that have been going on with our family, just mementos. So this is not truly a exclusive ham shack. This is ham shack slash family office. All right, on this workbench that I don't really use as a workbench, except for very minor things, that relates to another one of my early hobbies, which was chemistry. One year, I think I was about 8, 9, or 10, something around there, for Christmas, all I wanted was a Gilbert chemistry set from Montgomery Ward's in Chicago. And Santa brought it, and I just had a heck of a time. And I had test tubes and all kinds of things. And my grandfather on my dad's side was a carpenter. And so he built me a chemistry table. And there it is. And that thing's been carried from QTH to QTH over the years. On the top right of that bench, the first radio is a Anytone 868 UV analog and digital handy talkie. Really well made, good performer, and easy to program. Really a good product. The middle one is a Bofeng. I won that in a raffle the day that I passed my tech exam. So that was my first radio. And then the one on the right is a Motorola DMR radio. And that big ball thing is a Snowball microphone. Over to the left is a Bencher BY2 paddle, and that belongs to the club. That was a donation, and I'm just holding on to a lot of our donations until we have a place to put them and use them. On the middle shelf there, that's an ICOM 2300H 2-meter transceiver, and that's mine. And the rest are batteries and connectors and all kinds of things like that. And on the bottom, these are all donations. On the left, that's a Kenwood TS440S transceiver. And the one in the middle on the top is an Asden 2-meter transceiver. The little square device on the bottom is a Kentronics packet communicator. And the two large, one without a meter and one with meters, they're Astron power supplies. And then in the corner, we've just got, my both sons are artists, and we get a lot of artwork from them over the years, especially whatever we're into at the time. And there's a drawing they did for me on my radio hobby. And a lot of the boxes here, they're just marked with whatever was in there in case we have to return it or get it repaired or something. We've got it there. And then there's two antennas. There's a 8010 end fed from a place called Princeton, and a G5RV antenna. And my wife got me a set of 3 of these photographs of star formations, gas clouds, things like that, for one of my birthday presents one year. All right, moving over. I'm going to try to sit down without giving everybody a rough ride here. All right, that little transceiver is a TYT TH8600. Maximum watts is 25. But it's a really nice, inexpensive, easy to program transceiver. If something goes out, you're not at a big loss monetarily. And so far, I've had good success with it. The only thing I would change on this one is the microphone is pretty bulky. And that's an MFJ power supply, 4032, I believe, if no, 4030 MV. I've had it for several years, no problems at all. And I have another one of those TYT radios, the exact same one, in that Go box, ready to go. I got to put the power supply and the radio and a couple of batteries and grab my J-pole and I'm on. All right. There's my Hio Pro 7 headset. I love it. Hio does everything right. Quality all the way. And this is my Ameritron AL80B amplifier. This is a Bencher BY2, and this one happens to be mine. And then over, let's see if I can get over there. Yeah. All right. I've got the one in the rear is an Ameritron ARB704. It's an amp to transceiver interface. And then the one in the front here is a Ameritron ATP 102 tuning pulsar to help tune the amplifier in a safe way. And here's my ICOM 7300 transceiver. And this microphone is a Hio HM12. And Ed, KC0DX, and myself, we traded a phone for a microphone. So it was a win-win situation. And I just got the boom today and hooked it up. And I was on the round table, and I got good audio reports. Coming over here, we've got the MFJ 939D Versatuner, and works really nice. It's got the roller inductor, and the box over there is a dummy load. And if I put this down, I've got a MFJ 269C antenna analyzer, and I use that antenna analyzer to do my tuning instead of tuning on the air or with interference and things like that. Another exact copy of the MFJ power supply, and then a MFJ electronic keyer and memory, and my Bengali Simplex paddle. And it's a work of art, and it's really got a nice feel to it. And so the Simplex I would bring to field day, or I would bring to some outdoor event, but the Bengali stays here. Too beautiful to transport, in my opinion. All right, before we leave the operating station part of the shack, I just want to bring up this logging program. n3fjp.com. And this is a great logging program. And I like it. I mean, it does everything I want it to do. And everything is right there in front of you. You know, all your statistics, what you need to say for the exchange in whatever contest it is. And you can see this was from sweeps last week. And it lets you know when you have hit a QSO with a section. So this is a really, really, really nice logging program. And then once you're finished with the contest, you can just go up there and hit Write Cabrillo File, and it'll do that, and then a submission form. It literally takes me about a minute to go from the finished of the contest to submitting it to electronically to wherever I have to submit it. And yeah, I want to brag on this. And there's always improvements on this. Now it's not free, but once you buy it, I mean, the author of this is constantly upgrading and improving, and so that's what I use. And if you're operating by yourself, you want something that's easy to do when you're logging. All right, let's see. I got my maps, world map, and North America here, and then my son got me this map, and I haven't finished it yet, but it's a scratch-off map, and so you scratch off as you've made QSOs with whatever entity it is, and there's a couple of QSL cards from some of my favorite operators. And a couple of awards, and then my ham radio books, my book collection from many years ago. These are the kind of books that they had in my library and in my public school. And then books mainly about Chicago police and the Chicago outfit and things like that. And my QST and my CQ magazines. And we're almost done. That's one of my favorite children's authors, Jack Gantos. And that's when I was a much younger sergeant. My students one year in their art class made me this. Well, I ran out of memory, so this is the conclusion of the shack visit here. Wrigley Field. Spent many afternoons at Wrigley Field watching the Cubs. This is the Chicago Police Department's first bicycle patrol unit, and I was the supervising sergeant. And it was a great way to spend the summer. And sometime you meet some famous people when you're riding a bike in Chicago. Well, I hope you enjoyed the shack visit. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And I'll just say Thanks for tuning in and watching. And I'll say 73 from W5XNA. Well, we're back. I hope you found these presentations enjoyable and somewhat informative. And thank you for being a participant. We're always encouraged, especially if you're watching this on the premiere of the YouTube channel and using the chat box. Love to see who's in the chat room, and love to hear your comments. And on behalf of the members of the Bella Vista Radio Club, I want to wish you and your family a wonderful holiday and a healthy 2021. Your comments, questions, and suggestions are welcome and encouraged. Please address these to info@bellavista.radioclub.org. Also, for more information on the Bella Vista Radio Club, the area's largest amateur radio club, please visit our website at bellavista.radioclub.org. For now, I'll say 73 from W5XNA.